With the release of a new immersion pack, EU4 Origins, today, a main highlight of the release is the new monuments adding flavour and content to previously banned regions of the game, and I'll be covering what I think are the best and worst monuments of the new update today. Monuments have been a relatively new feature, only added earlier this year in the Leviathan update. Despite being overpowered initially, monuments are a hotly debated feature in EU4. And its players have been wanting more monuments, coming to a consensus that the developer team had missed some of the very important ones in-game. For this region, the developer team has come out with 50 new monuments in the Origins patch today. The question is though, which of these monuments are overpowered, and which are not actually that great? Now whilst I think there's always room for debate when it comes to these sorts of topics, the best monument may be due to the context of your game. Having said this, I think we can all agree that Bakuateska is the strongest individual monument in the game, since we are able to gain plus 10% discipline from it at its peak, which is insanely strong for anyone's military might, and could be crucial when facing some tough wars against larger opponents. There is really no comparison when you consider the Untitled, a monument that focuses on culture, a not particularly crucial aspect of the game in the grand scheme of things. Speaking to some of the EU4 experts out there in our Discord, we agreed that building is where you should invest your money most of the time, unless the monument you have is absolutely crucial to the success of your game. So without further ado, let's talk about which of these new monuments are mighty tools for your empire, and which of them are really not all that great, and probably not worth the trouble of investing in. However, what you might like to invest in is subscribing to the social streamers, since we create a lot of Paradox content, and it's absolutely free. If you ever get bored of us, you can always unsubscribe as well. Now we're going to dive right into the new monuments added to EU4. Beginning with the monuments of Europe, a lot of new monuments have been added within the area. A lot of these monuments, in my opinion, are fairly average, and a lot of them are forts and castles. For example, the Malta forts potentially give you plus 50% local defensiveness at its peak, and the Malbork castle gives you plus 100% local defensiveness at its peak. These monuments are really only useful in certain circumstances, and I wouldn't necessarily say they are particularly crucial, especially when you're getting battered by your enemies. Maybe if you're siege racing with your enemy, it can be really useful, but then again, these monuments aren't particularly unique since there's so many castles. However, feel free to disagree with me, as some other people I've spoken to believe the Malta fort is actually really important. In my opinion, there are two particular new monuments I like, and the first is the Brandenburg Gate, which is perfect for the nation of Prussia, since you get 150% more prestige from land battles when the Great Project is at its peak. Given all the fantastic modifiers you gain when your prestige is at 100, I think no doubt that gaining this monument is really valuable, and particularly good for players who wish to expand more easily since war becomes easier, with the Morale of Army bonus. The second European monument I'd like to talk about is the city of Prague. Now granted, you could argue the monument isn't that useful if you have no interest in becoming the Holy Roman Emperor, but if you decide to go down that route for whatever reason, this is probably one of the more helpful monuments you can have. At its peak, this monument gives you 0.15 monthly imperial authority. Assuming Ceteris Paribus, you can pass your imperial reforms every 30 years, potentially allowing you to reform the HRE much quicker than before, which could be absolutely crucial in your campaign. Some honourable mentions are the Sultan Ahmed Mosque, giving you a higher income, Krakow, which also gives you a higher income, the Bibliotheca Corvinina, which gives you institution spread, and could be crucial if you want to stay ahead of other countries in terms of tech. Finally, the honourable mention I'd like to give is the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, which reduces your unrest and stability cost, potentially saving you from a disaster when you're in a precarious situation. Moving on to the monuments of Africa, not as many African monuments have particularly stood out to me in the way that the European ones have done, and there are considerably less within the region. However, I would say the walls of Benin are pretty good, allowing you to gain prestige from battles, and having a defensive bonus in your area, so you could argue it's somewhat similar to the Brandenburg Gate. Another monument I think is crucial, and probably worth investing in from the start, is Sankore Madrassa in Timbuktu. Given the fact Africa has a technological disadvantage in comparison to its European neighbours. This monument can give a significant advantage to any African country who are lagging behind in technology and need to catch up in order to take on the militarily superior European powers. This is probably the best monument in the whole of Africa, given the context of these countries' situations. Kilwa City also isn't so bad if you're trying to make a significant amount of ducats through trade. Moving on to Asia, there are also certainly some new great projects worth investing in that have been added. For wide players in India trying to rapidly expand, the Kashi Vishwanath temple is worth taking, with -15% core creation cost and -10% aggressive expansion. Having this monument could be a crucial factor when you're about to have a coalition form against you. In my opinion, this is probably the best monument that has been added into Asia. Another slightly less good monument that has been added as well is the Guyan Palace. Situated in Korea, this great project gives you a -10% technology cost when it's at its peak. If you're far behind in technology, this monument may be able to get you back on your feet. So moving on, what other monuments have been added outside of these 3 continents? The New World has now been given a few new monuments, although some of them are not usable at the start of the game, and you can only unlock something like the White House quite a while after the game has started. A new monument that stood out to me is the Chan Chan Citadel. Given the terrain is mountainous, this province having extra defence may give you time to defeat a superior enemy that is besieging this province. If you had a bit more time, you could get mercenaries, or travel there in time before it's sieged down. The -10% local development cost may also be quite useful if you want to play Tool, considering there's a limited amount of territories that can be taken in comparison to other regions of the world, like Europe or Asia. Another monument that is worth a mention also is Cultcow in Central America, which significantly reduces stability cost and has a -30% local development cost at its peak. This monument is probably worth investing in at some stage, but overall I'd say there's probably better great projects to have elsewhere. Sadly, no new monuments have been added to Australia or New Zealand, and given the recent update to Africa, these 2 places, despite the Leviathan update, have not got a lot of flavour in both regions. Maybe we could get an update here at some stage in the future, with another immersion pack though. So after covering some of the newer monuments in EU4 Origins, what do you guys think? Do you think I've missed any important new monuments that probably deserve a mention? Or have I covered all of them that are worth investing in? I probably have some sort of bias, given the way I play EU4, so I'd love to know your thoughts. So please do let me know in the comments. I'm curious as to what you guys have to say about these new great projects. Make sure to subscribe for more Origins content coming out soon, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.